Hello, Intro to Cinema folks. My name is Jordan Dinty, and I'm going to be talking to you about Blade Runner today. Blade Runner was a neo-noir sci-fi film released in 1982 under the direction of Ridley Scott. Now, neo-noir is a different kind of genre as it's a modern or contemporary take on the classic film noir that like we saw in Citizen Kane. Now, this movie, it initially underperformed in theaters, and it was quite controversial actually, as half the people that went and saw it thought it was a masterpiece. Meanwhile, the other half that went and saw it thought it was roughly put together since its plot and pacing was completely different than anything seen before. Now, it was a strange thing because almost instantly became a cult classic, such as other big name films we've seen in the past, such as The Room. Now, this movie was loosely based on Philip K. Dick's novel, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? As soon as the book came out, people were clambering over one another to adapt it into a film. Martin Scorsese and Herb Jaffe were two of the main people of interest who saw potential. Scorsese decided to pass on it, but Jaffe sent a screenplay written by his son to Dick. Dick didn't like the screenplay at all, and he was quoted with saying, "Shall I beat you up here at the airport, or shall I beat you up back at my apartment?" when Jeff's son came to see him. Now, a little while later, producer Michael Dealey picked up Hampton Fancher's screenplay and got Ridley Scott to film and direct it. Once joining the project, he spoke with Filmways Financing and brought the budget of the film from $13 million to $15 million. Fancher found the term Blade Runner, and Scott loved the name, so they obtained rights to the name. Now, Scott later brought on David Peoples to rewrite the script, which caused issues with Fancher, the original screenwriter. These issues led to Fancher leaving the production. He eventually came back years later to assist with small rewrites in order to get the credit on the film. Now, initially, Philip K. Dick didn't like the script, but once he read the rewrite, he was pleased with the project and decided to continue with it. Sadly, however, he died before the film was released, but Ridley Scott managed to get him into the studios to allow him to see 20 minutes of different special and practical effects they were going to use in the film. Looking at the cast of this film, I'm sure there's one name that jumps out at you. That's right, Harrison Ford. Scott saw his work in George Lucas's Star Wars and Indiana Jones, and along with the recommendation of Steven Spielberg, Ford was hired for the leading role. Other names considered for the project were Arnold Schwarzenegger and Al Pacino, which I don't think would have fit as well as Harrison Ford. He just gives off that rogue cop kind of vibe any film he plays, just about. Now, during filming, Ford and Scott butted heads quite a bit with the way the movie direction was going, but eventually they ended up working things out and they finished the production. And Harrison Ford was actually quoted in 2007 as saying Ridley Scott was one of the hardest directors he's ever had to work with, but he was glad he finally finished the project as he was a big fan of the Runner movie. Now, the special effects in this film are often hailed as some of the greatest of all time, using practical effects as many digital programs didn't exist yet. Now, this is similar to how George Lucas did in Star Wars, using explosions, camera tricks, and some things used here are like paintings, models, and cuts, and all kinds of different stuff. Now, look out for these particular instances of these clever effects, and which one's one of your favorite? Now, perhaps the most intriguing part of this film is the fact that over the many years of its release, it has had 7 different cuts and versions. Most films released nowadays may have 2 or 3 final cuts, but Blade Runner has had 7 in its 30-year run. Now, it's quite a touchy subject amongst fans as which ending is the best? Of course, it's going to be a divisive topic. And however, they've worked together, and most fans have narrowed it down to 3 of the 7 endings that can be considered the best of all time. However, choosing between those 3 is a very difficult topic. Now, the first one was the 1982 theatrical release, the one people went and saw in theaters, and of course it's going to have a special place in fans' hearts as that's the one they went and saw. The second one will be the 1992 director's cut, where Ridley Scott went through and added in a different ending, causing the ending to be a little less happy, and added some different voiceovers. But in the end, the 2007 final cut came out, and it is quite agreed upon to be one of the best of all 7 to watch, and it is the recommended one to watch Blade Runner for the first time, which is the one that I just watched, and it was fantastic. The ending, they kept the ending from the director's cut version, removed some of the voiceovers, and removed or revised, I should say, a certain unicorn scene that caused a little bit of turbulence among the fan base. Now, kind of watch or read up on the differences of each of these and decide which one's your favorite for your own. I mean, everyone has their own taste, and that's pretty much it. All I've got for Blade Runner. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of the year.